The Pacers season is 1/4 done. What have we learned about this Pacers team and what haven't we learned? Derek Kramer from iPacers and Pacersrecap Live joins me to talk about that and look ahead at the next quarter of this Pacers season on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin. And today, the Pacers season is 1/4 done. It's actually a little over that technically. And we can take stock of the team. Perfect timing to do it. Derek Kramer has not joined us since Media Day. September is going to join us to talk about exactly that. What have we learned about this team so far? What have we not learned about this team so far? And some of that is stuff that the Pacers hoped they would have learned about this team. Injury is a huge factor, of course. We talk a little bit about who has and hasn't exceeded expectations this season, given the team's general current 4-17 state. And then we look ahead to quarter two. What should the Pacers do? How should they handle it? What will they hope to learn in that period of the season? Really fun conversation. You'll also hear me say that the Pacers crossed the 1/4 mark after the first quarter against the Cavs. That's wrong. It was the first half, and it's eating me up that I got it wrong, so I'm correcting it right now. And now we talk with Derek Kramer. Let's just get right to it. The Pacers are 1/4 of the way through their season, technically a little over it. They were 1/4 of the way through after the first quarter of Pacers Cavs, and that's a perfect time to take stock of what the hell just happened in the Pacers' first 21 games. And I use the word hell on purpose because Derek Kramer is here with his background from the newly created Pacersrecap Live, which is evil now because of the palindrome that it creates. And evil Pacersrecap Live has hellish themes, including Tyrese Evans and Heat LeBron James in his background. Derek, hello. How are you? I don't think this quarter season went how either of us expected that it might.
Yes, they're 1/4 of the way through the season, and they've won 1/5 of their games. Neither of us were that low on the team. Obviously, didn't expect there to have nights where they had 10 guys out with injuries and 23 total players on the roster. 22 have played, of course. Like, it's a bizarre season. Yes, I thought maybe the Pacers were trying to get me out of hell over the weekend, but then they played a good team and. No, we're still there. We're still there.
Well, I mean, honestly, last night was like the theme of their whole season. One stretch of just horrible play, and then 36 to 40 minutes of like they're as good as the other team, but you got to do 48 of those, not 36 of those, right? And so in some ways that is very frustrating if you are the Pacers because you're like, we can do this. We know we can do it. On the other hand, that's kind of like a symptom of a lot of not as good teams, right? Obviously their losses are more dramatic in that their runs are just like completely pathetic, but that's not like such a shocking way to lose. What is shocking is that even this banged up, I would have assumed they would do a little better than 4-17 before we knew of any injuries besides Tyrese Haliburton this season. My official prediction running through the schedule at this point in the season was 10-11 at this stage. Just a wee bit outside there for me. I beamed a batter with that prediction because just some of it was the injuries, obviously, right? Certain close games they lost, Minnesota, for example, Dallas, maybe Milwaukee where they lose by 2, where it was really early in the season and they were so hurt and somebody was getting hurt in every game. They probably win maybe all those if they're mostly healthy at that stage. Some of their games, including the road trip right after that Milwaukee game where they were losing by 30 every night, some other games of late where they were healthier, they probably would have lost closer to healthy anyway. So it's not even just health. Their offense has been terrible. I think that's my biggest takeaway from the first 21 games. Their defense is 20th. They're not that far off of the range I thought they'd be, which was somewhere in that like 15 to 18 range. But I thought their offense could be about close to that, maybe 20th-ish, maybe a little above that. And they're second to last. And only the Mavs are behind them. And barely behind them. The Mavs just had a Nemhard carry them to a huge offensive night last night. So that is, to me, we have a lot of other ways we could go, but the thing that I have learned about this particular group is I don't know why they can't make shots. And it was the biggest thing about their first quarter season that And they got a lot better of late. Like they've had a lot of very normal shot making games, basically since Ben Mathurin returned in Detroit. But that was the story of their first quarter. Is their offense was just way, way worse than expected, and some of it was for the reasons that we could all see right in front of our faces. They were super banged up, and some of it was just extremely perplexing stuff that they'll hope in the second quarter is not a trend.
Yeah, like the obvious jump is to like push the Tyrese Haliburton is the engine, is the offense, but it shouldn't change the fact that like guys are even missing wide open shots.
Yes.
Like it's just nuts. Like my co-host for the Evil Live show, Kyle Taylor, has put out graphics early in the year where like the Pacers' effective field goal percentage is like historically bad, not just bad this year, but in terms of like the history of the league, just off the charts terrible, especially to start the year. It has gotten better, but like you look at like some of those players that got hurt early in the year and haven't returned yet. Like you look at Aaron Nesmith's numbers, and that was like the entire team was shooting like that almost. So it's like a bunch of guys that are shooting maybe 31% from three if they're lucky. Like We're still seeing that from Jarris outside of a few games recently where he's finally found his stroke. We're still seeing that from Shep, although maybe he's starting to get out of it and making a few more recently. But just so many guys, for whatever reason, started the season on just incredibly cold shooting streaks. And with all the injuries added to that, it's just like it made it literally impossible for them to have a successful offense.
Their effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage, even with these last, again, I say since Mathurin returned, that seems like a good cutoff. They've shot above 41.7% every game since, which isn't good, but is like acceptable. Like you don't walk away going like, oh, that's horrible.
It's amazing. Like this is the positive. They're now shooting just below 42%.
This isn't a positive, to be clear. They've done that. How many games in a row would that be? 7, 8? They've done that 8 games in a row. They still are last in the league in true shooting percentage and effective field goal percentage. And the number they are for both of those stats would have been last year too, right? It's like they're at a
normal bad now on offense, yes. Not historically.
Yes. Yeah, but like given some of their defense is credible-ish and that they never turn it over, like in theory that's closer to wins. Their effective field goal percentage would be last of any of the last three seasons for both of those stats. I don't need to be doing this for every single season.
Used to be like 15 seasons, so that's progress.
Yeah, they're getting. Oh no, I'm through 2022-23, and have yet to find a team lower on either set. There we go. The 23-59 Detroit Pistons of 2021-22 are the last team I can find with a lower effective field goal percentage than this Pacers team just had through a quarter of their season. So that's a huge part of this, is that they were just Tyrese Haliburton. You're right, is a massive, massive, massive reason for this, obviously. But I think it's more than that. Like the guys miss shots they can make, and I always kept using the same guys as the face of it. Guys who didn't even have Haliburton last year were worse. Like JRE was way worse than he was with New Orleans. He was getting set up by Pelicans players and was making more shots. Garrison Matthews just had a breakout, and even he was shooting 15% from three, albeit on 13 attempts. But like he played for a different team too, and he made shots for the Hawks. Like it's everybody. It was just generally poor malaise of offense, even on shots that they would like. That was something that I think I almost would just I'd put money where my mouth is on this. Like, will be better in the next quarter of the season just by default. Like, even if they're injured again, these guys will make better shots than this. That's one thing that happened in the first quarter of the season, but isn't something that we learned. And that's my pivot to say, what did we learn about this Pacers team through a 4-17 start to their season?
What have we learned? I will say, I think the positive that we're learning right now is that J Huff looks like a legit NBA player, which wasn't a sure thing at the beginning of the year.
No, it was not.
And like he's making threes more consistently. He was like not making anything at all to start the year either. He's getting into rhythm there. You wonder if the start of the year was just like he really needed to work up his conditioning to get used to, like he's only playing like 18 minutes per game so far, but that's still like a career high by a ton. And then consider the Pacers' typical pace of what they want to play at. Like it's a big adjustment for him. And the defense, especially like the Pacers defense, like is really good with J Huff on the floor typically, and just not good when he's off the floor, his cleaning the glass stats, like he's in the 100th percentile, and like the difference of his on and off for effective
field goal. First in the entire league.
That's the best. And it, like, in terms of teams shooting worse when he's on the floor compared to when he's off the floor, he's in the 99th percentile, so nearly first in terms of just how many points per possession they're allowing compared to when he's on and off. So, like, the Pacers defense, they've figured out how to work with Jay Huff. Like, I think they've adjusted it some to try to keep him closer to the rim more often, running more zone, probably running him more in kind of more drop coverage than they would in the past, more keeping their bigs at the level instead. And he's leading the league in blocks and doing so in only 18 minutes. And his block percentage is like off the charts, historically good at like 11.6%. Like only Manute Bol and Wemby have had block percentages above 10 for an entire season. So, and like he's above them by like almost a full percentage point. So like he's been very good. He's been a beacon of hope along with Pascal lately. And yeah, that's been my, what have we learned so far? Jay Huff like could be a potential, at least a rotation big in the future, maybe a starter. We'll see, but I'm very hopeful about Jay Huff right now.
Yeah, I think this would be what they hope the trade could be, is a good player who can clearly be on the court for 15, 20 minutes a night, whatever. I don't know that he's shown me enough to be like, yeah, he's a for sure starter. I don't think anyone would say that. But he definitely could be rotation quality, and he's making the minimum the next 2 seasons with a team option the third year. Like, that is what the hope of this trade was, is that, yeah, you gave up a draft pick, granted a second rounder, for that. That's very valuable. If you have a rotation player who's very cheap for a long time, especially in this, like his contract overlaps with Siakam's to a T, that's great. That's what you're looking for. Everybody, quick break so we can talk about Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. With 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be huge. But getting tickets is the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage. When it comes to snagging seats with Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, the layout makes it simple. Scroll through matchups, compare seat views, pick a game, tap a section, have your tickets loaded within minutes. It's no confusion, no hunting, no fine print. The seat view feature is a game changer. You can see exactly what you're going to see in the arena before you buy. Their prices and fees are up front, so there's no last second surprises. Alerts for teams and matches make it easy to grab tickets the moment that you can. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKDOWNNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use the code LOCKDOWNNBA for $20 off on Game Time. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Game Time. Siakam would be the other guy that I would point to as clear positive if you wanted to do learning from the front, is that, like, I don't know that worry would be the right word, but fans certainly keep, like, thinking about, like, will there be a decline? He's over 30, right? That's just a natural thought. I'm not saying it's going to happen. The decline for really good players is later than it used to be, but it still happens at some point. No signs of that to me. He looks awesome. If they were even like 8-13 or 7-14 or something, he'd be getting like legit all-star looks. His stats have been unbelievable. He hasn't been awesome enough to lead them to wins. I'm not even going to really ding him for that necessarily, but that'd be the other learned thing that was good from the start of this season. But I think the other flip side of all this is some of this was the quantity of injuries, but I do think they learned that a lot of the roles they had players in last season was near what their peak usage should be. And that is maybe a little too reactionary to how many injuries they had. Like, if you gave Aaron Nesmith more responsibilities, but the players around him were last year's team, it would look better than it has this year. But like, his usage went way up and his percentages dipped. And that's a natural trade-off that happens to most NBA players and is happening to several Pacers this season in a way that, again, I'm not even like saying this is a massive negative, because the roles they were in last year were really good, but it is something that is important to have learned, or to learn about your team. And a lot of guys with more responsibilities are not turning it into the same efficiency or like very clear and obvious improvements. Now that could change. Like, this season is still in some ways about development. There's 60 games left, but I don't know that really anyone has taken on Mathurin has taken on more responsibilities and has stabilized his usage. That's good to know for the Pacers. If you need him to do more or have the ball more next season, great. That would be fine for your team. But basically everybody else who's kind of ratcheted up the usage has seen the trade-off of what that does to your efficiency or the challenges that come with that for your shot. And maybe they get better throughout the season. Maybe as the team gets healthier and they have better talent around them, they just look a little better. As shots have gone in of late, a lot of guys have just looked better, right? But that is something that is telling, is like a lot of their guys last year were in at their optimal role or at least pretty close to it. That's not a bad thing to know for sure, but it is, it's not fun to think that some of your guys can maybe take on a little bit more and you're a little more versatile as a team when Tyrese Haliburton does come back. And so far, they haven't really, I don't think there's any warm and fuzzy like, oh, great, we have so many new alignments that we can go to when he comes back. Like maybe one or two things. So that's been tough.
Yeah, I think the biggest disappointment to start this year is that nobody's kind of leaped in an exceptional way to the giant hole of opportunity that's been available to them. Mathurin is probably the closest for sure. Started off the season with his first few games just unbelievably hot from the floor. Still like what I've seen from him this year, but it's but you look down the line other than Ben, and it's like, well, Jarris was good as an eighth man last year, but anytime he's been in the starting lineup, it's just been really rough of a watch. Shep, obviously he's been put in a lot of like where he's had to play point guard, and I think everybody knows he's not a point guard. But like he just can't consistently make shots still. There's just so many guys down the line where you just like would hope that somebody would kind of pop with the extra opportunity. Like you see it around the league, like with guys like Ryan Rollins just like going off for the Bucks. Obviously they're losing a lot of games right now, but at least they feel like they found somebody at the guard that can help them in the future. Yep. So like that's the kind of thing that you want to see in a season like this, is for somebody to take advantage of that opportunity and run with it. Like Paul George when Danny Granger was out, and then Paul George kind of became
last night, Pacers Cavs, Jalen Tyson, like clearly Jalen Tyson, the Cavs are like, sweet, this is a guy.
Yeah. And it feels like the Cavs have found like a few of those guys like that. Like Tomlin has had like moments with that too. And, maybe some of these guys that are hurt, like would have taken better advantage. Maybe Johnny Furphy would have shown, like he hasn't even had a rotation spot yet. So we don't even know if like he can contribute in a rotation role. So that could be a advance in role that we could see from Johnny Furphy once he's healthy, which I think he's getting close since he's practicing with the Boom occasionally lately. Like Quentin Jackson had that amazing game in Golden State. Like maybe you could see him jumping into the role, but he's been out for so long now. It's the only Pacer with a positive net rating, by the way, Quentin Jackson.
So crunch time Q, baby. He was great in their first win. It's a shame that he got hurt in the very next game, and we haven't seen him since. That's been the other. So I first of all, I agree with all that. Mathurin right now, usage rate career high, up to 26. He had never been above 24.5, and true shooting career high, and assist percentage career high. These are like all incremental jumps, but that's still in the context of what we were just talking about. Significant is that even with more, he can be roughly the same, even more efficient. That's good to know. Like they can ask him to do more next year and feel totally comfortable with that experience. We'll see what he's played 10 games. Like that's true of a lot of these guys, is put the low games caveat on it. Cause this is a bad time to talk Mathurin. He just had his worst game and he had some awesome games right before that. So he's one guy who has been kind of, out of that bigger role leading to struggles. And that's where I would end my, what have we learned thing, is just like what you just said. The two young guys who have been healthy enough to play, Shepard and Walker, they were certainly in the group of like guys that the Pacers would hope take a step forward. And they've had bigger roles, and like, yeah, okay, that's good. You want to learn that, but like they have not been awesome in those roles. Like Shepard is getting to the cup and passing more, sometimes not very well. And being able to defend huge players and stuff. And like sometimes it looks good and sometimes it looks just completely terrible and he can't make anything. And Jarris finally broke out of his slump these last couple games, but then was really rough against Cleveland again. And like that was among his worst games in a while. Like they've been so up and down. And like, yeah, that's how young players work, but they would have hoped for more ups with more consistent responsibility for both of them. And like all the rest of the young guys, that's been the most frustrating part if you're a Pacers executive or coach, is like all the rest of the guys you'd hope to, could this be a guy for our next good team, Q, Furphy, Cam. There's way more than that, but that's just for some reason the three who came to my head. Just haven't been available at all. And like you're hoping to learn more about Neesmith in a bigger role and Nembhard playing point guard. And in some ways you have, like Nembhard's played 13 of the 21 games and his passing has been good, but his shot making has been, 41.6% is not great. A lot of Isaiah Jackson's another one that had some good games and some bad ones. A lot of these guys that are young and you're hoping to learn from have been in and out or have not shown progress. It's like, dang, it's really been in a little bit of that way because that was what this would have been about if we knew they'd been bad. Is like what young guys take a step forward. A lot of them have been hurt. A lot of them haven't. And they have 60 more games. But that is honestly, along with the 4-17, the part of the start of the season that's just like, dang, that's what we've learned as the Pacers. That's not very fun.
It's not very fun. You could maybe say Pascal just because like he's had to do so much more and he's delivered. It's just he just doesn't have enough around him that have also raised their level for it to make.
Can I ask you and the listeners of this podcast to hold me accountable? I'm for sure going to say next summer at some point, well, they got to be careful and keep an eye on Pascal Siakam potentially declining. Can we just stop saying that until he actually shows any sign of it, like at all? Like, does it even have to be a talking point if he just keeps getting better and working hard on his game and being a very good player? I don't know.
He's incredible. I think the only concern I have for them this year is just like overuse.
35 minutes a game.
Yeah, it's just the overuse because he's so good. And you could like see it last night against the Cavs. Like he was exhausted at certain points. Like there was one where like he probably got fouled or at least he thought he got fouled and he just laid on the floor. Like, and no whistle was blown, but he was just like, he had already scored, like, I think the previous two possessions, maybe off his own rebounds. Like, it was like not easy possessions for him to get his buckets. And then, the next play he's on the floor. And you can see his exhaustion. You can see his frustration a lot more this year. So that's my only concern with Pascal is just like overusing him this year when we know it's a bit of a lost season. I also wonder if like part of the slow start, like obviously there's all these injuries, but like are the Pacers like hungry for wins this year? Just in terms of in relation to other teams, like they're coming off a season where they just got to the finals. So is this just like the typical finals hangover combined with a nightmarish start to just like every other team, like Pascal's talked about this, like they don't care that we're injured. Like we beat them last year. They want to beat us this year. And like I don't know. It's like even just subconsciously, if the team's like, well, we know we don't have Ty, our ceiling isn't as high. Of course we want to win, but like, is it just a natural, like, is that why they're having these like 6-minute stretches of poor play where they struggle to get out of it? Cause it's just harder knowing what they know.
One more break here, y'all. We got to talk about Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ at work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. Everybody knows the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now you can take part live in market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play. You decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. I have wondered what my psyche would be like if I was a player on the team. Not that I'm any sort of high-class athlete with close to their mentality, but like on one hand, you have what you just said. Like you understand why you're bad, and you're like, hey, we know we'll be good next year, like really good, right? So it's like it sucks. It absolutely sucks. These guys, their whole lives have won everything they've done, and they can't right now. On the other hand, though, like I did this before the season, over 10 players in this team are extension eligible in the summer. Like they should want to ball somewhat, right?
That's the thing.
And show something, especially in the part of the season that is actually competitive, or like they're still sort of, going for it and all of the things of that nature. So those are certainly competing factors is like brain fog and malaise versus money, like getting paid to play basketball and being quite good at it. And these dudes have pride, man. Like I do think what you're saying is probably true. Where like if they get hit hard, like last year they responded every time. They won 1 million games where they were down 15. Like, are they really like, oh, we got to get off the mat immediately? You know, and they didn't like ever. They didn't have any big comeback in these first.
Yeah, like they're getting close. It's just like they don't get off the mat fast enough. Maybe that like they let those runs instead of it being a minute, now it's 6 or a whole quarter, and then it's really hard to come back from those.
I agree. Just generically, I have this on the side as who didn't meet expectations in the first quarter of the season. I'm not talking about like maybe Pascal would count as an exceed. He's a bad example. I'm trying to think of the perfect guy for this. Like Isaiah Jackson is probably like pretty close to what I expected he'd be. You know, I don't want to talk a lot about him. Is there anybody really drastically in either direction to you? How many players are very drastically in the well below or well above expectation?
I think I had a little bit higher expectations for Drew. Like, I think it's just
I did too.
His task is just so tough. Like for him to be what he is defensively and to run the show without having often another like ball handler that can capably like run things when they're forcing you to have pressure. So like, I don't think it's like crazy low. Like he's still having a good season, and it's still like, yeah, you're still like Andrew Nembhard. I'm very excited about you in the future. But it's not like most improved player type of hype that I think a lot of people thought he would be on that kind of radar with the opportunity that was in front of him.
I thought he'd be a little better than this, but hang on. Numbers on Andrew Nembhard that actually blew my mind when I looked this up before we started. Career high usage by 8%. That's obvious why. And in that, second best true shooting percentage, career high assist percentage, career low turnover percentage. It doesn't feel like that watching him, does it? You know? So like in some ways he is playing better than he has. In other ways, I think his expectations have been set from just absurdly good playoffs and not his regular season numbers. And his defense is his thing, and that's been a little neutralized because of his offensive ask. So he's not felt as, or he hasn't. I would also have him in the same category as you, to be clear. But numerically, it's not like so crazy. Like I'm like, okay, this I guess makes sense. But yeah, I agree with you that he's not. I've been very high on him for forever, and I thought he would look a little better in this.
Yeah, like if you just look at his numbers, like they look incredible compared to his previous regular seasons. But we like. No, like Pacer fans thinks of Andrew Nembhard by his regular season stats. So I think that's part of it. And then, yeah, everybody's expectations were so high that I probably am a little lower on him than I should be this year. He's still been very good. I'm still very excited about him. But yeah, I don't know if there's a ton of people that I'm like super way higher than I thought I would be or way lower. I think the lower end is Jarris and Shepard.
Yeah.
Those are the most concerning ones. And like, I'm still like trying to be patient with both of those guys. Cause like we've seen them, like we talked about at the beginning, we've seen them be good in smaller roles for a team that was like very good, obviously in the playoffs, and they were contributing to those wins. So that's like there's still a valuable player there. It's just like you don't want them to like lose all their confidence in this year when they're trying to have bigger roles. And they're just like failing at it, essentially.
I would put Mathurin in my slightly above. He's had like a sharp pass every game of late. It's only one, but it's like, okay, look at that. Like that hasn't been. That's a thing that they would hope to have seen from him. He had a lefty lob the other night that I was like, whoa, look at you, Ben Mathurin. Siakam above, obviously we talked about him. I agree. Jarris and Shep are well below, honestly, guys. Like Jarris is shooting 33.5% from the field, and that's the better of these two players. Like they have not, Shep's passing better and, like doing honestly quite a lot better. He's definitely rebounding a career high. His turnovers are still relatively low per game. And then Jarris, every game, it's just one or two passes. You're like, what was that? What were you even hoping to do there in some game? Like that's the problem is I used to think I could tell what he was doing and he just executed poorly. In this case, and sometimes recently I'm like, what were you even trying to do on that one? They have been well below what I think they honestly would have hoped they could be because they're very clearly extension eligible next year. But you're right that like both of them played well last year in bigger important moments, but you'd hope that taking on more responsibility, if these guys step up, like in theory, that helps your spending outlook. You can figure out if they could step up if somebody leaves your team, like you want to know that still, and they have not given you any warm and fuzzy about that. Most other guys I would put close to meets. Tony Bradley is exceeding in that he is on the team and like a consistent, useful player at times. They haven't needed him at all recently, which is that means that Isaiah and Jay Huff are playing well, so that's a good thing. Robinson Earls exceeded my own expectations of you're a hardship player, you aren't going to do anything. Oh, you're actually like kind of decent. That's about it. I think everyone else's meets or has been below.
I think Jay Huff is at least a little above with this last stretch. I think
but his first 15 games are like, oh God.
Yeah, but like, can you honestly say you expected him to lead the league in blocks and be like,
no,
like very credible, like good rim protector? So like,
I think
he's definitely above.
Yes, that's like one of his only two skills is rim protection. I obviously thought he'd be at least decent at that,
but not like lead the league in blocks in 18.
No, not lead the league in block percentage. Last year, his block percentage was 6.9%. To be clear, which is actually really good. And he's like
still really good, and he's almost doubled that. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah, no. That I do agree with that. Like the actual block, especially when, and so the reason, of course, to say Tony shut up when I say the first 15 games are not very good is they have changed his defensive ask recently, and that was not the case in the first 15 games. We'll see if he keeps making threes. That's obviously an extremely significant part of this. Is that shots have finally gone in and made his percentages look normal and not like just atrocious. But yeah, that has been, he almost, by the way, how many blocks do you think he had with the Grizzlies last season in 64 games? He has 48 this season.
How many games did he play with the Grizzlies?
64.
I'm going to say 75.
56. He's about to pass it in 20-something games. So yeah, he's been a machine at that, and that's been a big deal for the Pacers team that is like at least okay on defense. They're not a good defensive team, but they're okay. I'd put him in meets with the last, name the number, 6-7 games being above and the first 13 games being below. But I also had like my toe in the water of like, guys, this guy's played 95 games. Can we like not put any expectations on him at all? Can we just see what happens? I thought
maybe you would be above, because I feel like your expectations for Huff were lower than most people's.
Well, I think a lot of people would have said below for a long time because of the 80% of Miles Turner thing. But right now he actually is being 80% of Miles Turner. So Good for you, Jay Huff. This is like, it's not lost on me that them winning 3 out of 7 and like looking like a capable team has coincided with them getting every night 48 minutes of center play. Not like here and there. They beat Golden State with 48 minutes of center play in Charlotte. Like every single night, Huff and Jackson have been like useful to good players. And that is
very good sign that Isaiah Jackson, I feel like, I don't know if you agree, but I feel like he looks like more springy, like his normal self lately. And that's like probably the most encouraging thing about his season so far. I'm hopeful that like as the season goes on, and especially next year, that he looks more like what we've seen in the past from Isaiah Jackson.
They might not get a chance to know this because Huff with the starters has worked, but I want to know really how much of his current good play is getting a rhythm and recovering versus playing with this bench group that he has a career of experience with and knows where to cut and how to play off TJ and things of that nature, because that has certainly been a part of, I've cited that stat a million times, that he entered the season with more minutes than McConnell than Huff had played at all, period, like for any team. So how much is that versus how much is what your user said, recovery, rhythm, things like that?
We've seen the
next quarter of their season will take them to. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, we have seen in the past like good chemistry with Andrew Nembhard and Isaiah Jackson, but that hasn't really played out as much this year in terms of like their lob game and stuff like that.
Yeah. Their next quarter of the season, games through 41, will take them to January 15th, which is a very convenient time to be at halfway point and assess your team, because that's when basically every player who will be eligible to be traded this season will be eligible to be traded. That's when you'd like to know everything about your team as possible. So I will just generically allow it to you. What should the next quarter of the season be about for the Pacers? Don't laugh. That's not the right answer.
Oh my gosh. That's not a question I have thought much about. I think it should be fairly similar to what the first quarter should be about. It's just finding finding consistency for 48 minutes. No, they said a lot at the beginning of the year. The standard is the standard. Have the standard for an entire game. Get healthy. Keep guys healthy in any way you possibly can. And hopefully like get more positives from the young guys. Keep Ben Mathurin going with his increased role. Experiment. Figure out what you can learn about these guys. I think that's the biggest thing. I think it kind of continues what we wanted the beginning of the season to be, but now hopefully you get more health in this next fourth of the year.
Yeah, I think that what I will find tricky is the balance of this next quarter of the season. Look, they're getting close to the NBA Cup break, and I said on November 10th-ish, I'm making up that date, but like, let's talk then about what their change of approach should be, if anything, right? Because I do think if you're the Pacers, like you're 4-17, they're not dumb. They understand what the writing on the wall of a 4-17 start is, right? So what do you do about it? Because I said this after their win streak this weekend in the Charlotte game, like some fans like, oh, they won, yuck. And like, okay, I get, I'm not telling you you're stupid for thinking that, but I am going to say like, don't you want to, as the Pacers, know what can lead you to wins with this group? Because next year there will be games Haliburton doesn't play or isn't on the floor, and you want to know what the best alignments are or who the best players are or who should be on that team at all. So like Jay Huff playing really well in some of those games, or Ben Shepherd playing well in some of those games, or Ben Mathurin playing well in some of those games, or whoever it is, like you want to know that still. And that's been one thing about like we just said this about the first quarter of their season that's been frustrating, is you haven't gotten many chances to know that or write down in Sharpie like, sweet, we feel good about this or that. So what I wonder is then what this kind of balance is. I still kind of think they should play their best players, and this is the wrong word, but push, try to win for maybe a month more, maybe a little more than that, just to find more of those answers as they get healthier. Like, especially when Nesmith comes back in the middle of this month. Toppin might return too late to factor into that because it'll be close to the trade deadline. But just to generically have some sort of reasonable conclusion about these players. Because if you don't know, that hurts you a lot when you're making those decisions into the season, right? Or into next season, right? So it is as dumb as as some fans might think it is, I still think you do need to try and experiment and put a good foot forward for some of this next quarter. That said, very obviously, every other quarter of the season, they have goals of young guys, show me something, right? Like do anything, prove/show you can be a part of the next good Pacers team doing this or that. And a lot of them have already in past seasons proven that they at least somewhat belong on good teams, but in a bigger role, in a different setting, things of that nature. What do you learn in that kind of situation? So you, listener, can make your own date. Maybe some of you are like, now, December 2nd, pull the plug, right? Like pick your time when you think they should do that shift I described. But it's been a month and 12 days of their season or whatever. Like it's super early. 2, like it's insulting to fans to be like, now we're done. But like there is a point where every team makes that decision, right? And so they have to now figure out what the right time to feel like they've learned enough is. And the number of injuries they've had make that a non-trivial answer. So you, listener, pick your date of what you think that should be, or pick a stretch of schedule where you feel like that's a reasonable time. Maybe it is January 15th. Maybe it is the halfway point when every player who will be able to be traded can be traded. Assess then, do your trade deadline, call it a year. But that is what the next quarter is about to me.
And I think that's fair. Like, it's definitely too early to just be like full tank mode. That I think not only it's like insulting to fans, although many fans probably wouldn't mind and wouldn't care. I think the players is the hardest. You can't sell that to the players this early in the year. Like, none of these guys that just went to the finals last year are going to sign up for that at this point in the year. And like, just that's the only you don't want to like break these guys' psyche with like just constant losing. Like, obviously, like we see teams recover from that very quickly. Like the Pistons are obviously very good now, and most of that team was like on a team that lost 20 whatever games in a row just 2 years ago. Like, it's not even that long. So I don't know. Like, I think I agree with you. I think this quarter of the season, it's too early to just be full tank, all of that stuff. Like, enjoy the wins while they happen right now. Like, it's the lottery odds are so like just ridiculous that like wins right now aren't gonna like be the worst thing in the world. Saying that though, on my live show, we have been starting since we've been in hell. We have been starting the show with spins on Tankathon until the Pacers get first.
Boo.
We did not plan this. Okay. We're evil.
Boo.
We're doing evil things. The first time we did it, just to illustrate how terrible the odds are, the first time we did it, they got first. The second time, OKC got first, and the Bucks got third.
Oh God.
And like the Hawks got second, and the Pacers were like down to 6. So and then it took like 7 tries for the Pacers to eventually get to first. So the only time I think the Pacers should tank in the next month and a half is if they play the Clippers. That's the one. You lose that game. Everybody in the league should be trying to make the Clippers win games.
The best thing in the NBA right now is that a lot of West teams have been very disappointing, and the Clippers could, in theory, turn it around and get like the 9 or 10 seed because, Oh my God. Oh, yikes. Yeah, I'm glad that you guys are doing it. And if you listener are interested in full tank and draft stuff, like they are doing the Tankathon spin. I get asked a lot.
It's just the start of the show. It's not everything or anything.
People are like, when are we going to start talking about the draft? First of all, don't use we. I'm not talking. You and I are not like calling each other up about AJ DeMonsa. I will not talk about prospects until the season's over. I just won't. Like, maybe I'll reference general trends of good players during March Madness or something, but it's just not. They're playing. We need to talk about what they're doing and what it means for the future of the Pacers. But I get why you're asking. I'm not calling anyone dumb for asking that, but I personally will not be talking about the draft until whenever the Pacers are done playing games that matter. Well, that is a sobering conclusion to our first quarter of the season discussion, is that it's reasonable for people to be asking about these things, and it makes sense for people to be doing tankathon spins. I had to say it last night, right? They lost to the Cavs on the same night that the Nets won and the Wizards won. And,
Wiz.
Yeah, like people were like, that's a real thing that I have to be like, yeah, people are probably happy about this grouping of results. I have nothing else to add about the first quarter unless you do.
Yeah, not a lot. I'm excited to see what Ben Mathurin does the rest of the year. I'm excited to see what a lot of these guys are going to do the rest of the year. Yeah, it's we're still having fun on the live show despite being in hell. So
talking about games is in fact fun. The other reality to keep an eye on in the second quarter is they might not get a single game this season with all of McConnell, Nembhard, Nesmith, Toppin, and Siakam available. It might just never happen.
Nice.
And that would have been a big part of them learning how good they could be without Haliburton, is those guys all playing together. We'll get potentially to see 5 of them together if Nesmith returns this month / during this quarter of the season. Derek, thank you for the time. It's the morning. You and I record at the craziest times. Where can people find you and the things you're doing, covering the Pacers or taking on your fiery death about the Pacers?
Yeah, I think I've locked up your latest request to record, and maybe now I'm getting close to your earliest request in the morning to record. So yeah, I'm just all over the map with that. You can find our Evil Pacers Recap live. We're going to go live tomorrow after the Nuggets game. It's on the iPacers YouTube channel, so you can just search for iPacers. If you search for Evil Pacers Recap live, Pacers Recap is one word. It'll probably pop up too. Yeah, that's you can find that. iPacers.com. Ben Gibson, who's been on the show recently, writing a lot lately, which is awesome. On the website. And yeah, that's Twitter, iPacers blog, Blue Sky, iPacers, all over the place.
If you get Washburn or Will writing for you, it'll just be like the slow migration of the old blog group. Just
yep.
Because Dylan wrote something.
Slowly get all the
everybody's coming. Everybody's coming back. The itch never truly goes away for anybody, does it? It's always there. Tomorrow, I will also be talking Pacers Nuggets, but well after the live recap of Kyle Taylor and Derek Kramer. And I have popped into their chat after 3 games. So there's a chance I am there. It's a fun time. And interactive live is something that I have never explored, but is a very fun niche, especially right after games. And the Nuggets stink right now somehow. So we'll see what they look like against the Pacers. They've lost 4 in a row at home. That's very strange. So yes, Pacers Nuggets here tomorrow. We'll have a guest on Thursday into Friday. I have no idea who it is. It's hard. I will admit to listeners that my usual crop of guests are not watching every game. Can't blame them. So I have to be a little pickier and choosier. That probably means you'll get more Derek this year, mostly because I'll be like, hey, man, you're actually watching this February 8th game or whatever. So we'll see who it is. But there are a lot of people still watching, of course, all these Pacers games. Thank you all so much for listening today. We'll see you very soon.